Hark! It's an 87th Precinct bonus episode. This is the bonus episode for the book Hail, Hail, the Gang's All Here, number 25 in the 87th Precinct series from 1971. You'll have heard us discuss it in the main episode, how it's a collection of stories over a night and a day with loads of different detectives in it, and we've explored that. We explored it to the point where we abandoned our usual trawl through the year of publication, in this case 1971, which we've saved for this bonus episode this time. I know you're desperate to hear our pathetic attempts to guess what's in the charts. Well, I say ours, I mean theirs. Because, of course, Steve-O and Morgan are about to be subjected to that anyway. But before we do, we've got to start in our traditional format of talking about the books that we've got, the editions we've got, and the covers of the original publications of the English language versions of this book. And once again, we ostensibly have the same copy, really, don't we?
We do, yeah.
We do appear to.
We don't have exactly the same copy.
No. I wonder why you were looking at them very closely.
Oh, I don't. Full magnifying glass.
Well, you tell by the price. Mine was 50p.
Mine was 50p.
I can't tell because some rotter has scribbled it out.
Oh, well, mine was Australia, $1.50 in Australia.
A mere 95 cents for me.
Well, mine was
yours?
$1.50.
So ours are the same, are they?
Yeah. I can tell you, because we normally run down who the UK and US hardback and paperback publishers were and what editions. Ostensibly, we've all got first edition UK paperbacks, but different printings of.
Oh, right, okay.
So we've got the pan editions.
Yeah, the more you look at it, the stranger the cover is, because it's black with an Ursula police shield that seems to be glued to a blackboard with some marmalade. Which, what the hell's that supposed to be?
I assume that's supposed to be blood.
I would guess
It's
a blood
orange.
stain.
Well, that might just be to do with the age of the book.
No, it's not. I bet it's orange on every single one. Orange, orange, orange.
Orange, 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 the code word.
There we go.
Just looks a bit weird.
I think that's more a printing reproduction.
Oh, there's a blob on the shield.
as well, yeah.
There is.
Shredless, though, so it spreads easily.
Yeah, so that bit's more akin to blood, but it looks like more like bean juice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does look a little bit like...
Perhaps
it's probably
it's about the-
Andy Parker's shirt front or something. He's
Yeah,
been having
maybe
baked beans.
ultra close up. Yeah, and he's just had his lunch or tomato soup, because that could be quite orange, can't it?
It can.
Rather than red.
I would say if anyone knows anything about heraldry, because I don't, you can see on the cover of the Pan edition a very close up of their mocked up Isola police shield, and it's got so it's actually got like a coat of arms and stuff on it. So if anyone knows what that coat of arms represents,
you can almost make out the writing there. Have you got a magnifying glass
no,
in this house?
no,
You can almost make that out, though, can't
Some
you?
kind of Latin motto going on, isn't there?
it's testament to the fact that we're all getting on a bit. That we all wear glasses, but we've all just done that thing where you have to lift your glasses off and move it closer to your face to try and try and get it into focus. Well, I will share a close up of that on the Twitter and Instagram feeds, and if anyone can tell us anything about that, whether it's like a city coat of arms or anything like that,
they might
or it's just made up.
Yeah, they might have just swiped it from something.
Yeah.
There's a guy with a sword.
I don't think it's a New York.
And a guy
thing.
with one of those medieval things, you know, people used to smash each other around the head
Some
with.
kind of mace or something.
Yeah,
is it?
yeah, that's the thing. How does it say there? It says
Ha 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 ha.
yeah, I reckon magnifying glass would be able to.
Well, we'll carry on investigating. But basically, I think Morgan has got a second printing.
Indeed, I have. 1974.
Got a
We got a third printing,
printing.
1975.
yeah, but they are the first editions,
Yes.
basically, of the UK paperback. Oh, that's the sound of a man huffing his book. That's one book huffed.
Ooh, that's.
I think Morgan's might win.
Perfumey, that one. Yours doesn't smell of anything.
Right.
Mine smells old. Yours smells perfumey.
Ooh.
A lady's book.
Oh, very nice.
Very delicate. I'll show you the covers of the other editions.
Always love this bit.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
So we've got the US hardback edition, which is quite stark. It's a fob watch with a handprint on it.
What's that all about?
I'm not really sure. I mean, the fob watch is like night and day, time passing, I presume, but the handprint's a bit, don't know.
Not my favourites, these, actually, compared to some we've seen. You see, there's the tomato soup covered. That's the same as ours, isn't it?
The problem with this novel is it doesn't present one kind of clear idea to the cover artist, does it?
I suppose this UK hardback has kind of gone with that theme, got different shield numbers for the different detectives involved, no doubt.
Yeah, and then the US paperback has basically picked one story. It's picked the Mercy Howells stabbing and has a knife thrust through a photograph and the message, "Put on your clothes, miss."
I was getting really confused there because I was looking from over here and I thought it was like a salt shaker.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it
like
does look
weighing down a photograph.
Yes, I know what you mean from this angle. So, yeah, they're not the greatest ones.
No, but more difficult to...
Absolutely.
Yeah, quite a tricky book to do justice to in a single image, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But, it was 1971, so people were distracted by all sorts of great music and films.
They could have Dutch ghosts on the front, couldn't they?
They could have Dutch ghosts on
easy to represent.
You just have, like, someone in a bedsheet, but with, like, one of those little hats on.
Yeah, and little
Clogs.
little ghostly clogs.
An orange sheet.
Tulips. Ghost tulips. Oh, it's good old stereotypes. They won't want us in Europe. Anyway, yeah, let's jump into our normal 1971 examination here. So, why should we start? Do you want to start with some music things?
Go on then, yeah.
Well, let's do the best-selling UK albums of 1971.
1971.
Who's Next by The Who?
No.
No?
Well, not in the top 10, any road.
Oh, rats. That was like...
Zeppelin
It's one of these things, I don't genuinely think you'd...
2. Is it 3, maybe?
3, possibly.
Zeppelin 3.
I just don't know what the patterns were of sort of spending and how big rock albums actually were. So obviously there were some huge ones, but actually compared to a lot of the big-selling pop albums, were they anywhere close, really?
I'm trying to think what the big selling pop albums would be in 71.
There's certainly one that's very, very famous and that's well thought of by a female singer-songwriter.
Tapestry
by Carole King's in the top 10.
Oh, that being the case, is there any James Taylor or anything in there as well?
There is James Taylor. Can you name the album?
Mudslide Slim, that one? Whatever
If you
it's
give me the
called.
full name of the album.
I can't.
Well, you're very close. Mudslide Slim and The Blue Horizon by James Taylor. Bridge Over Troubled Waters still at number 1 as the biggest selling album.
Crikey.
That was a huge selling album. Motown Chartbusters 5.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Rolling Stones album in there.
Not Sticky Fingers?
Yes, Sticky Fingers. A Moody Blues album.
Oh, let's think 71, something like, what might it have been then? Something like...
It's the sound of guessing.
For your children's children, or whatever it's called.
No.
What about... It wasn't... what about... I don't know. Just tell me.
Every good boy deserves favour.
Mentioned children, didn't I?
I know. And that album reminds me of driving down from where we used to live in Yorkshire into Scarborough, because it was one of the tapes that my dad used to have in the car. Oh. And I remember, perhaps even before listening to it, just looking at the album sleeve in the cassette. So that takes me right back to the 80s, that does. Even though the album obviously came out in the 70s. And then, the rest of that sort of best-selling albums of 71, in the UK at least, were Rod Stewart with Every Picture Tells a Story.
I nearly said Rod Stewart.
Electric Warrior by T-Rex.
Oh, yeah.
Andy Williams' Greatest Hits, which is another one I think stuck around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And Ram by Paul and Linda McCartney.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I mean, you can have a guess at the top 10 in America of the week of the publication of the book, or the copyright registration of the book, which was the 16th of April, should you care.
Is the singles?
Yeah.
Ooh, like charting singles in 71. wouldn't even have a clue.
I'll run it down for you, and you can chip in with the trivia. You'll inevitably know about all of these. Right. So at number 1, Joy to the World by Three Dog Night.
Ooh.
No trivia known.
Joy to the world. No, not really.
Okay. Number 2, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That's
Tremendous.
just a great song.
Yeah, can't go far wrong.
Number 3, Just My Imagination, blah, 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 by The Temptations.
Yeah, lovely.
I put ... because I know it carries on, but I can't remember what the next bit of it is.
Running Away With Me, I think.
That's it, yeah. Just My Imagination, Running Away, blah, blah. She's a Lady by Tom Jones.
Oh.
The Loud Welshman Strikes Again. Another Day / Oh Woman, Oh Why by Paul McCartney.
Oh,
So
good.
I don't know why that's listed as both of them, unless it was out as a double A side in America. I don't think it was in the UK.
Yeah,
Because Oh
wasn't
Woman,
aware
Oh
of that.
Why, and I love Paul McCartney, but Oh Woman, Oh Why is not a great song. Whereas Another Day is a fantastic song.
Yep.
This is an interesting one by Billy Ocean. It's called Put Your Hand in the Hand. Not in my hand,
Just the hand.
just the hand.
It's not one of his I'm familiar with, I must admit.
No. Me and Bobby McGee by Janis
The
Joplin.
Janis version, yeah.
And this is a snappy one. Doesn't Somebody Want to Be Wanted by the Partridge Family starring Shirley Jones featuring David Cassidy.
Bloody hell, yeah.
That's
Wow.
the full official title. For All We Know by the Carpenters. And then One Toke Over the Line by Brewer and Shipley.
Oof.
A song I don't actually know, but I do know it from a reference in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the film version, where Dr. Gonzo's basically in a bath out of his skull going, One Toke Over the Line! And so on. People will know if they've seen that. Films. There's 2 Carry On films.
Oh
Folks,
my
we are
God.
getting near to the end of the run of Carry On films. I promise
Nobody
you.
will be happier
Than
than Morgan and
It's
I.
going to be a very long gap, and then one day it'll be Carry On Columbus!
Yeah. Well, that'll be a red letter
I
day.
always say carry on up the Khyber, but it's never the answer. But that's got to be coming up.
I think
Has that been?
Has it gone?
Yeah, I think so.
It's probably one of
See,
the,
I forget instantly. That's the problem.
Carry on.
I think we've gone past most of the ones that I know.
Yeah. Just tell us.
Well, Carry On at Your Convenience.
Oh,
right.
you see, I've said that a few times.
Yeah.
And there's never been.
About trade unions in a toilet factory.
Yes, obviously.
And Carry On Henry, which is about King Henry.
Oh,
course
yeah.
it is.
Classic Sid James one.
Yeah,
I
that
suppose,
is.
isn't it? Yeah. It's a bit of Sid
That
James
was-
laughing that.
It was very good, very, very authentic. But there's some very good films out in 1971. Things like in America, particularly American films, we had The French Connection,
We did, yeah.
one of our touchstones for New York cops, really.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And Dirty Harry comes out,
Yeah.
one of my absolute
Cracking.
favourites. Fiddler on the Roof comes out as a film. Bedknobs and Broomsticks, which is a great Disney film, which seems somehow older than 1971, but it was 1971. 200 Motels.
Oh,
Life on the Road. That's a Frank Zappa film, which I've not watched in years.
Me either, but I suspect I can probably still pretty much quote it from start to finish.
Yeah, I imagine you could. Has it had a decent release, do you think? Or like a Blu-ray or something?
I don't know. Probably by now you'd think.
I wonder.
I think I've still just got it on horrible fuzzy recorded from the TV VHS.
Yeah. If you're a fan of Zappa, particularly the early period of Zappa, then it's a fantastic film to watch. If you're not, it's a terrible film and more or less incomprehensible.
Yes. I mean, even if you're a big fan, it's still fairly incomprehensible. That's half the joy of it, though.
Yeah. Things like Get Carter come out.
Mm.
Clockwork Orange, Straw Dogs. Do you know which Bond film?
Diamonds Are Forever.
Oh, they said it in unison and perfectly correctly as well. That was on TV the other day, and I watched it.
I watched it, yeah.
It's
Always watched it.
very silly.
So you're talking about Van der Valk. That's set in Amsterdam, actually.
Yes, there is quite a lot in
A little
Amsterdam,
bit,
yeah. There was loads of Hammer horror films
Oh.
in 1971. And again,
Countess Dracula.
is on there.
What else was 71? Scars of Dracula.
No, I don't think Scars was that year. A lot of the one. So Hammer obviously got the idea in the late 60s, early 70s that they could go down the slightly soft porny route. I mean, they didn't go full tilt shagging, as it were, but they sort of, the rise of films like Emmanuel and things like that sort of broadened what people would show on screen a bit. So that's why you get things like Twins of Evil,
I was just about
Countess
to say.
Dracula, Lust for a Vampire, Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
Were they all 1971?
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde's a bit of a corker, I seem to recall.
They were great films.
Vampire Circus.
Oh, that's a great one,
Yeah.
like standalone one. Yeah, that's tremendous.
And you also have things like...
That must be Hammer's best ever year, 1971 then.
especially
They're
if
all-
you're a
they're
teenage
all-
boy.
They're all absolutely brilliant films, every single one of them.
Yeah, there's also Hands of the Ripper and Blood from the Mummy's Tomb as well. So
Yeah, Blood from Mummy's Tomb is very good as well. Yeah, Scars of Dracula was 1970.
yeah, we probably talked about it last time.
We did, yeah.
Didn't we? Yeah.
Well, that's why I record this stuff, so I don't have to remember it.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it if I need to.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're good.
And there was quite a few big movie adaptations of TV series that started in 1971. This is a bit of a trend in the UK, and I assume there's an equivalent in America where popular sitcoms get a movie version
Like
of
the
them made.
Dad's Army
So
film.
the original Dad's Army film comes out in
On the
1971.
Buses.
On the Buses
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
Hammer Horror's most...
Did
Hammer
Steptoe
films
Son
most-
have a...
Hammer's most horrifying film.
yes, that's the...
Did
Right.
Steptoe Son have a movie?
Had a couple.
Certainly did, yeah. Are
Yeah.
You Being Served it, didn't they?
So I wonder if you're anywhere else in the world, did your popular sitcoms receive the big movie treatment? I'm intrigued because several of them did in the UK. Usually they weren't very good. They were remakes of early episodes, or and they were done outside of a studio, so there was no laughter or anything like that. Always a bit strange.
Yeah, because
Curious.
the Dad's Army film's not great, is
It's just
it?
flat.
Yeah.
It's quite nicely shot. but
It's one of the better ones, really, but it's still a bit odd, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on from that to a little bit about politics and stuff. Nixon still president in America, but relevant to our discussions, really, although I don't think it's ever reflected in these books. So we're dealing with police books set in ostensibly New York, and they often reflect things that happen, like the Miranda Escobedo laws and things like that. But I don't think any of them talk about the equivalent of the Knapp Commission, and that was the commission that was set up to investigate police corruption, and that was happening in 1971. That was the one that was triggered by Frank Serpico. And I watched Serpico, the film, for the first time the other day.
Oh, right.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah. I've only seen it once, and probably about 10, 15 years ago.
But I don't think in the 87th Precinct books they ever really talk about corruption at all. I mean, yeah, you have a couple of bad cops here and there, but none of this taking money from, like, on an industrial scale as was happening in the police force.
Well, I kind of mentioned it in there, the bar owner guy saying, oh, he already has to pay the
there's
fire
a bit of
brigade,
grift, I think.
the sheriff on the beat, Andy Parker, if he's there. But not the wholesale.
Not on that kind of scale. That's definitely more of a James Ellroy kind of territory to get into, isn't it?
So that's quite an interesting bit of what's going on in America in terms relevant to what we're talking about. In the UK, we have our Prime Minister Edward Heath, and we have decimalisation.
Yeah.
Which,
It'll never catch on.
no, well, it is an interesting thing, really, because this obviously happened well before we were born, but we were born, to the generation that had to deal with a total change in the system of money that you were used to and had been around for a long time. And I don't think anything like that's happened particularly anywhere else in the modern world. I know currencies have shifted, like from individual currencies to the euro, but they were all decimalised currencies anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
to go from pounds, shilling, and pence to just pounds and pence, the weird old system of things like guineas and all that sort of stuff.
Half crown. It's so
12,
baffling.
12 florins to a groat.
Yeah.
It's been explained to me loads of times, and it's so baffling.
Well, if you
It's
talk
just
to
like,
our parents, because they grew up with it, it's just so natural to them,
Yeah.
even now, to sort of go, there was so many pennies in a pound, and it just doesn't make any sense. But this was equivalent, and it's just, why? I just don't know.
was there 12 shillings in a pound, and then was there 100? There was 100 pence in a shilling, wasn't there?
No.
100 pence in a...
120. See, I don't know. There'll be people yelling at their podcast app. Old people. And by old people, I mean people who were 7 years older than us, potentially. Anyway, so that was a huge thing. It was interesting. I've got one infrastructure thing.
And was the Humber Bridge 1971?
Well, no. But it
That was in the 70s. That's coming up.
Well,
I'm going to say that for the next umpteen episodes until I'm told I'm right.
It was actually something in Liverpool.
Right, okay. Second Mersey Tunnel.
Yes, it was. It was the Kingsway Tunnel, opened in 1971.
Excellent.
So in Liverpool, we're the proud owners. What am I talking about? We have 2 tunnels underneath the River Mersey.
I think it was the most expensive tunnel ever built. The Kingsway, when they completed it.
Yeah, well, it took something like 6 years to build. I think.
Two dual carriageways under the river.
Yeah, it's true. It still works. You go in one end, you come out the other.
It's all you can ask, really, isn't
There's
it?
got a junction in the middle of it. It's very exciting.
Very mysterious. This is the stuff, isn't it?
It
You know,
really
I
is.
cannot believe this has been relegated to the bonus episode. It's an absolute scandal.
Well, that's the case. I'm not going to go any further into it. I think we've covered everything that happened in 1971, and there was absolutely nothing other than those few things that we talked about. But we do need to talk about who we would cast in our fantasy version of 87th Precinct.
All right, yeah.
And we talked about Detective Arthur Brown.
We did.
We did.
Now, in the books, he's described as being about 6'4", 220 pounds, which I believe is about 14, 15 stone.
Big guy, then.
He's a big fella. Character-wise, we know he's a family man, but he can sort of, like in the Jigsaw, he plays up to his ethnic background. He'll play up to anything to get a result.
But he's very...
He can be strong and sort of dangerous looking, but he's otherwise he's solid, dependable.
Yeah, absolutely. He can sort of turn on that side of himself if he needs to, but that's not really kind of... How old are we thinking he is? I think I always imagine all of the detectives as being a little bit older than they're actually written, I suspect.
I think so.
Well, in this, when Mayer says he's 37, you pull the other one.
But he's 37 through the entire thing.
37.
Yeah, because I'm guessing Arthur Brown is quite a bit younger than that.
I reckon he'd be about 30.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought he was going to be older than that.
Well, no, only
actually.
logically.
I would say he was, I think, if anything, slightly older than Mayer, I would
You
say.
reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not younger. Certainly not 7 years younger.
I don't
He
know.
doesn't. He doesn't.
Well,
He
this
never.
is it, you see.
He never comes across as a junior partner in anything.
No, but you
in
also
the
have to remember things like if you're using things like family as a measure, people tended to start families younger then as well. He's got a 7-year-old daughter by this point, so it would be likely that he would start that family in his early 20s.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, maybe then.
I was wondering if they actually mentioned kind of what age he was at any point, but I don't think it has been off the top of my head.
he's never played particularly young on any of the adaptations that exist so far, and I shared a sort of little picture grid of people who've played him so far on screen. Not masses of them, because he's actually been skipped over in a few of the adaptations, like the TV series, but then they reduced the cast down to 4 for that anyway, ostensibly anyway. So we did get some suggestions in for people that could play him, people thought. So, and I've got a couple of suggestions myself. Now, one of the obvious ones is, especially when you're talking about the 1970s, is Richard Roundtree, who played Shaft.
You'd need him to be total hard bastard all the time, though, wouldn't you? If it was Richard Roundtree, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
You can have a cuddly Richard Roundtree.
No, well, yeah, I don't think
He's
Arthur
like a-
Brown's cuddly particularly, but he's. I think
But he's not. I don't know.
I think he's nice generally, speaking
Yeah.
of Arthur Brown, but it's. But the thing with Richard Roundtree, he was a tall man. He's a big fella, quite imposing anyway.
Richard Roundtree's like the equivalent of like Clint Eastwood or somebody. He's never.
Yeah.
He's like a.
I agree. No, I agree.
Yeah. If you did want him to portray a
like,
softer side at any point, you might be in bother.
But if you wanted him full on,
just full on, kind of, yeah.
Someone else suggested a chap called Tay Diggs, who I don't really know, but I definitely will have seen him in stuff. He was he did a lot on Broadway. He was in Empire, Murder in the First, Ally McBeal. This was our Twitter friend who's got the best Twitter name at the moment, Kend Game. At Ian's Dad 47.
What's the name of this person?
Tay Diggs, Tayediggs.
T-A, like the River Tay.
With an E on it.
Oh, it came up then. Hold on, I'm doing some...
This is... So if you're in...
Yes.
Let's see.
Well, you can have a look at my picture of him there. So, my problem is my picture I've got of him is he's wearing a lovely bow tie and nice glasses. So
yeah,
opposite to Richard Roundtree, he looks too nice. This guy.
I agree. Yeah,
he looks too nice. Maybe a bit too handsome as well.
Yeah, and also, so another suggestion we received from Stella. Hello, Stella. I will say one thing, Stella. It's a fairly obvious suggestion these days, but I will also say another thing. A pretty damn good one.
What is this?
It's Mike Coulter, who played Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Because if you want someone who is big...
Mike
Coulter.
If you haven't watched all of the Marvel things, then you probably won't know who he is. That's not him. that's a white man.
Coulter. How are you spelling his surname?
Colter. Or just look up Luke Cage.
Oh, Coulter. I was going to say, that's why I wasn't saying anything, because I thought, well...
Yeah, it's a left field suggestion of a slightly portly white man.
Yeah,
that's the fella.
Right, okay.
It's not a bad call.
I would like to see him, because I know he can do that sort of... I mean, Luke Cage... The problem with some of those Marvel TV things is they're all a bit too... I don't know.
See stupid photos. Right, okay.
The problem with some of the Marvel TV things is they can be a little bit one-dimensional because they drag out a story and they don't actually get time to play the highs and lows of comedy and drama necessarily. But I thought he was very, very good.
Yes.
I think he could be sort of very interesting, a bit of casting. And I've forgotten who suggested John Boyega and Daniel Kaluuya. I don't know how to say it. Kaluuya. John Boyega, we'll know he plays Finn in Star Wars. Now he's...
Definitely, be a younger Arthur Brown.
If he was going in now, but we're fantasy casting for,
absolutely.
whenever it happens. And Daniel Kaluuya played in Get Out. He was in Black Panther and Psychoville.
Yes.
They're both absolutely brilliant British actors.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a couple of actually quite good photos of them here as well. So if I just show you those... I mean, when I show you these photos, you can imagine them.
Yeah.
Perhaps in those sorts of roles.
Yeah, potentially.
Looking pretty good.
Cool.
They look very smart. What smart young men they are.
Indeed.
So my suggestions are... Now, have you seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yes.
Yeah.
You would. It's not Terry Crews, you see.
No.
You'd think it'd be Terry Crews because if you want a big guy who's...
I think a slightly younger Terry Crews would have been
possibly,
absolutely cracking.
but actually a younger Andre Braugh, the guy who plays the Captain Holt.
Yeah. I love him as well. He's tremendous.
He was in a series in the early 90s called Homicide: Life on the Streets, playing a cop as well as a detective. So, and I think he would have been brilliant there.
Yes.
There's also a fantastic actor called Chiwetel Ejiofor, who's came to prominence in a film called Amistad. Steven Spielberg film. He was in a very good film called Dirty Pretty Things, and he was the sort of antagonist in Doctor Strange. He's very good as well. He's British. And you can't escape the fact that if you're talking about prominent actors, black actors in this case, Idris Elba, for his work in The Wire alone, it's... I don't like the fact that he sort of gets put up for everything. I mean, he is brilliant.
Yeah.
He's great, and he's a very commanding presence on screen. But obviously, they sort of like, who's going to be the next James Bond? It will be Idris Elba, no matter what. It's
who's going to be the next everything?
Yeah, he is. But he's got the sort of build and skill to do it as well.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feeling that the character of Torayan, that was played by the actor Torayan Black, that was a stage name, by the way. It was the detective in Hill Street Blues. He would have been brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I'll show you some of the pictures here of these
Yep.
fine gentlemen.
Indeed.
So those are my suggestions.
Cool.
There's so many good actors.
There are a lot of good actors.
And there's a brilliant sort of new generation of younger actors coming through, like John Boyega as well.
Yeah. My thought, another thought for another kind of sort of younger Arthur Brown, O'Shea Jackson Jr. I'm quite fond of.
What's he been in?
Well, notably Straight Outta Compton,
Oh,
playing
yeah.
his dad.
Oh, right.
But also I saw him recently in Ingrid Goes West, where obviously in Straight Outta Compton he's playing just kind of like very much like the tough kind of like gangster rapper, but then he kind of showed a softer side in Ingrid Goes West. Really good. I think he could kind of handle both sides of the Arthur Brown personality. And I could also totally see him, because particularly if we are setting this series in the 70s initially, you're going to want Arthur Brown to occasionally have like a little bit of the kind of blaxploitation kind of character, but not so much that he's just a sort of one-note stereotype.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that was my other
that's
thought.
a good suggestion, that, I think, as well. Steve-O, got anything in the...
Yeah, well,
in
I'm
the
a bit
suggestion bank?
stymied by my thoughts that he's older.
Well, no, that's interesting though.
I see him as quite a senior guy, really. And he's not my pick, but I think Danny Glover deserves a mention, certainly.
At one point,
Because-
I think he would have been prime candidate.
Because he's got the moustache. I don't know. And if you're having somebody slightly older, even if back in the 80s or whatnot, surely some research on the 87th Precinct must have gone on for those movies, you would have thought.
Quite possibly.
Casting of. I don't know.
I always think with Danny Glover, he carries himself with a certain maturity, regardless of when you see him. Really, he's never one for think, oh, he's a youthful.
But the guy I instantly thought of, and I admit that I didn't know his name, but I've seen him in all sorts of stuff. He's a guy called Frank McRae that I know from License to Kill or Living Day. License to Kill. This guy, you'll have seen him in all sorts of stuff. Now he is exactly.
Oh, yes.
He is exactly what I have in my
He's
head.
the face of Arthur Brown in your mind.
He is,
yeah.
absolutely.
He's in Batteries Not Included.
Yeah,
he
he-
says the line "Batteries Not Included" and makes me cry.
He's in all sorts of stuff,
Yeah,
and
he
he's
is.
really tall, and he has the moustache, and he's quite friendly, and I don't know, yeah.
But he looks like he could still smash your face in.
Exactly. So that's what I have in my head. Anyway,
I think there's
Put
some
forward
good
its
calls.
worth.
I don't know whether we've
and
landed.
he's still alive, and he's 75, so he might be up. He might be up for it.
I don't know. We might have to off air select 2 or 3 folks, because I don't think I can settle on one here, unless you guys can.
Well, I think I don't know. I get the feeling we need to make a decision.
Well, that's true.
I do like my Frank McRae.
Yeah.
I must admit. I do like Bauger back in the day.
Good old Andre. It's a tricky one. There's so many good candidates.
Are we talking in terms of for our actual series, which is definitely actually going forward?
Well, if
I'm
it's
liking on the basis of those. I'm liking Mike Coulter.
I think Mike
I think
Coulter
Mike
would be,
might get it. Be getting the call.
cracking. It's kind of, I think, in terms of his sort of age and the kind of air of maturity he's got, he kind of bridges the gap between our different ideas of the age of the character as well. So,
and I'm not certain I've ever seen him on screen, but from those that's still there, he would get my vote out of those 9.
Well, I think then in this case it's Stella's suggestion that's well, let's put it this way: he's not doing any more Luke Cage, is he?
no,
Because all the Marvel TV series have been shut down on Netflix, haven't they?
yep.
So he's free.
So
Great.
So he's
So who's he joining in the cast? What's his face?
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, yeah.
First man
I was
casted.
about to call him J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling is
J.K.
playing
Rowling
Pete
is-
Burns.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
So who we having
Who
next
next?
casted?
Do we
What-
go for a big name? I mean, Arthur Brown's quite a big name.
He is, yeah. Should we have a slightly lesser name next time?
Go on then, you can choose who we'll cast.
Bob O'Brien.
Okay, so a real key, interesting supporting character, I reckon Bob O'Brien could and should be.
Of which there might be virtually no physical descriptions.
I feel like there must be some. Like,
I think
maybe...
there's a little bit. I'll dig it out what I can find, and we'll see what we can do about casting the unluckiest cop on the squad, Detective Bob O'Brien. So get your thinking trousers on.
Because he'll never be that prominent in any story, and therefore...
But these are the glue that hold a good cast together.
Yes. Exactly, yeah.
So there we go.
Exactly.
I think I can hear the phone ringing. I suspect it might be Hollywood.
So, yeah, Bob O'Brien next year.
Brilliant.
Excellent stuff. Well, I think we're done here then. Next time, we'll be talking about the book Sadie When She Died, and on the bonus podcast, who you'd cast as Bob O'Brien. So until then, I'm going to say ta-ra. Ta-ra.
Goodbye.
Very well.